Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadaptikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. So today we'll revise Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Unit 5, which covers chapters 14 to 19, where you all will be doing your respective presentations, starting with Chandran Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, can I start?
Yeah.
All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, and Sri Sri Radha Krishna, seeking permission from Guru and Gauranga to speak on the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 1, Chapter 14, text 1 to 21, talking about bad omens seen by Yudhishthira, and 22 to 44, speaking about Arjuna returned from Dwaraka, and Yudhishthira concluded, Lord Krishna has disappeared. The mission of the Lord descended to earth was to protect the faithful and annihilate the impious. After the Kurukshetra war, the mission was completed after fixing Maharaja Yudhishthira to the throne. Arjuna went to Dwaraka to hear from the Lord of his next program. After a few months, Arjuna did not return, while Maharaja Yudhishthira observed some inauspicious omens that were fearful. He suspected the disappearance of Lord Krishna. Symptoms like changes of seasonal regulations, foul means of livelihood, greed, anger, and fraudulence became rampant in his kingdom. A godless man is invariably greedy, angry, and fraudulent. Earn his livelihood by any means. Maharaja Yudhishthira experienced such changes in the godly atmosphere of his kingdom. Ignorance is the cause of all these anomalies in human society. Srimad Bhagavatam is the tool, like a bright light of sun, to remove the ignorance of darkness. Maharaja Yudhishthira observed the disparities conjunction in the disappearance of the Lord from the earth. Transactions and dealings became polluted with cheating between friends, misunderstanding between father, mother, and son, between brothers, husband and wife, always strain and quarrel. All these difficulties can be mitigated by one process, that is the devotional service of the Lord. Maharaja Yudhishthira became perturbed when he observed the symptom as greed, anger, irreligiosity, and hypocrisy rampant in society. Maharaja Yudhishthira said to his younger brother Bhishma, I sent Arjuna to Dwaraka to meet his friends and to learn from personality of God and Krishna of his program of work. He was worried because 7 months passed of his departure. Supreme Person of God has many planetary expansions, each one executes different functions. All these planetary expansions are explained in Bhagavad Gita 4.7, 4.8, 3.24, and 3.1. For want of time, I'm not explaining about it. Excuse me for that. When Lord Krishna was apparently killed by the bow and arrow of the hunter, the Lord left his material body in the material world. For him, there is no difference between matter and spirit because everything is created by him. All these actions are by his inconceivable potency. The Lord never quits his transcendental body. Material prosperity consists of a good wife, good home, sufficient land, good children, aristocracy, family relation, this victory over competitors, and by pious work attainment of accommodation in the higher celestial planets. These are earned not only by one's hard labor, but by the mercy of Supreme Personal Godhead. Without the Lord's benediction, no one is successful by personal labor. Maharaj Yudhishthira admits this truth in his personal success. Conclusion is, God's sanction is the immediate cause for all happenings. Any successful man should feel grateful to the Lord for all he has achieved. Bhagavad Gita 7.14 states that the reaction of material energy is never to be conquered. Only way is to surrender fully in devotion, serving under the lotus feet of the Lord. The symptoms of reactions like arms and thighs and eyes squaring constantly forecast of some undesirable happening. Maharaj explained to Bhima about the bad omens he has seen. Rays of sun declining, stars appear to be fighting among them, rivers, tributaries, ponds, reservoirs, and wind are perturbed. Mind is perturbed. What is the extraordinary time? What is going to happen? Cows and bulls neglecting their duties, crying. Deities seems to be crying in temple, lamenting and perspiring. All cities, villages, towns, gardens, mines, and hermitages are devoid of beauty and lost all happiness. Maharaj said, I do not know what sort of calamities are awaiting us. Maharaj used to observe the inauspicious signs on the earth. On the chapter 2nd portion, where Arjuna returned from the city of Dwaraka, Arjuna bowed at the feet of Yudhishthira with dejection and with tears from his eyes. The king remembered the earlier indications of the sage Narada. Maharaj Yudhishthira, after seeing the Arjuna in a distressed condition, wanted to know whether the friends and relatives and the members of the other family are living happily. Wellness of grandfather Surasena and uncle Vasudeva and his younger brother was questioned. It was impossible to remember all the names of the Lord's family. No one is equal or greater than the Lord. There could not be any question of his welfare. Maharaj Yudhishthira refrained from asking this question. Maharaj Yudhishthira was anxious to know about the pious men and their pious acts in the city of Dwaraka, because Lord stays and takes pleasure in their glorifying the Supreme. After the departure of the Lord Krishna, when Arjuna visited Dwaraka, all the queens, including Satyabhama and Rukmini, lamented for the Lord with great feeling. Lord Krishna was moved with all kinds of comforts available in the universe by the means of the Yadu dynasty. In return, such servitors of the Lord were protected and fearless. Fearfulness is a sort of illusion for living being. What is the cause of fearfulness? A man, forgetful of his awakened life, is fearful, particularly forgetting his eternal relationship with the Lord. Members of Yadu dynasty were fully awake. Lord was there to protect them. From all angles, Maharaj inquired Arjuna about welfare of Dwaraka. If Lord Krishna was there, nothing inauspicious could have happened. Whereas Arjuna appeared to be bereft of his bodily luster, and king inquired his personal welfare. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired from his brother whether anything undesirable happened on the way home from Dwaraka. The neglect of the prescribed duty of the householder especially in the matter of old men and children, is unpardonable. Hence, he questioned us whether he has not taken care of hungry old men and boys for feeding or dying. At last, on the basis of Sri Narada's indication, Maharaj Yudhishthira frankly inquired about Lord Krishna's disappearance from the vision of the Lord. That's how this ends. Thank you for the patient listening. Excuse me for any shortcoming, please. Hare Krishna.
Good. Any questions, comments, realizations for Chandran Prabhu? All right. I will also quickly summarize chapter 14. So towards end of the previous unit 4 in chapter 13, we discussed that Dhritarashtra quits home. Yudhishthir went to offer respects to Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, but they were missing. Sanjaya also did not know where they were. When Yudhishthir was discussing with Sanjaya, Shri Narad Muni appeared. Shri Narad Muni instructed that there is no point in thinking about Dhritarashtra because Krishna takes care of everybody. When Yudhishthir insisted to go for the final rites, Shri Narad Muni said that by the time Yudhishthir reaches there, Dhritarashtra would have left his body. Therefore, there is no need to go. By Ashtanga Yoga, Dhritarashtra will ignite fire and burn, and Gandhari will also enter into the funeral pyre. This way, Yudhishthir got pacified. So this unit 5 is on Parikshit Maharaj and Kali and is titled Parikshit Maharaj and Kali. Chapter 14 is titled The Disappearance of Lord Krishna. The summary of this chapter 14 is Yudhishthir saw fearful bad omens, and from Arjuna's crying, Yudhishthir could judge the disappearance of Lord Krishna. In the previous chapter 13, Shri Narad Muni also informed to the Pandavas that you Pandavas should continue to stay in this world as long as the Lord is here. Because of this statement from Shri Narad Muni, when Krishna departed from Hastinapur to Dwarka, Arjuna also went with Krishna to know Krishna's next plan. Arjuna returns after a very long time, and Yudhishthir started to inquire with Arjuna because Arjuna is not looking normal. Arjuna is shedding tears while offering obeisances to Yudhishthir. From Arjuna's tears, Yudhishthir could guess that Krishna has departed from earth. Some of the inauspicious omens noticed by Yudhishthir are that direction of eternal time has changed, irregularities in seasons, people became greedy and deceitful, even friends cheated each other, misunderstandings between father, mother, son, family members, etc. Even couples quarreled. The left side of Yudhishthir's body, thighs, arms, they were quivering. The jackals are crying at sunrise, vomiting fire, dogs barking. There are many other bad omens that Yudhishthir noticed. And because of all this, he could guess that Krishna has left earth. Few other points in this chapter 14 is that Yudhishthira is showing gratitude to Krishna, that all these things given to us are given by Krishna. When we are successful in any way, we should know that the power is given by Krishna. Ultimate sanction for all success rests in the hands of Supreme Lord. Therefore, any successful man should feel grateful for all he has achieved. An analogy is described that a patient is saved in a hopeless condition even without medicine, and another patient dies even with the best of medications available and the best of doctors supervising and treating this patient. If one could achieve success without the sanction of the Lord, then no medical practitioner would fail to cure a patient. So despite most advanced treatment, a patient dies, and even in the most hopeless case, even without medical treatment, a patient is cured astonishingly. Therefore, the conclusion is that God's sanction is the immediate cause for all happening, whether it be good or evil. When I was young, I have personally noticed this one case of a patient being recovered, that a colleague's, some relative, was admitted to a hospital, and the doctors were trying to treat, and the patient was not responding to any treatment. So the doctors gave up. They said they removed all these medications, the oxygen mask and everything. They say he's just lying there to leave the body. And all of a sudden, astonishingly, after a little while, the patient woke up and he came out of hospital. So completely hopeless situation. Still, he got recovered even without any medications. Another important point in this chapter 14 is that cow protection and Brahminical culture are the two necessities required for a society to prosper. A society devoid of cow protection and Brahminical culture is not under the direct protection of the Lord. When Arjuna returned from Dwarka, Yudhishthira inquired the well-being of everyone, but Yudhishthira did not inquire about Lord Krishna's welfare, because the Lord is all perfect in himself. There cannot be any question of his welfare. And one of the verse, a partial read of the verse, it will appear that during the time of Pandavas, free contact between man and woman was allowed. Plus, few lines down in the purport, it says that women approaching men for contact should never be refused. So, how do you understand this? The answer lies in one word which is described down in the purport in that verse. The one word is consecration, meaning association with sacred vow, meaning association in marriage. So a literal read that it appears that Pandavas, during the time of Pandavas, free contact between men and women was allowed, and the other statement says women approaching men should not be refused. So cannot read this in isolation. You have to understand the whole purport to understand that the key word is consecration, that association is allowed only with sacred vow, meaning association in marriage. Those are the few points from chapter 14. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right, Nitya is next for chapter 15.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, seeking permission from all assembled devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, Sri Radha Krishna to present Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, verses 1 to 17. The title of the chapter, The Pandavas Retire Timely. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. Arjuna, who is the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief-stricken because of strong feelings of separation from Lord Krishna. He was very distressed because Lord Krishna was out of sight and he felt increasing affection for him. Arjuna is the pure devotee of the Lord, and the Lord's dealings with him are displays of friendship of the highest perfect order. He was not only a well-wisher of Arjuna, but actually a benefactor. And above all, Lord Krishna agreed to become his chariot driver to protect Arjuna in the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna remembered all these, one after the other, and became overwhelmed. Arjuna spoke to King Yudhishthira, stating that all his powers that astounded even the demigods are no longer with him. In Bhagavad Gita 10.41, the Lord states, anyone specifically powerful and opulent in wealth, strength, beauty, knowledge, and all that is materially desirable is but an insignificant portion of the complete whole of his energy. When Lord descends along with his eternal liberated associates, he not only displays his divine energy, but also empowers his devotees with required energy to complete and execute his mission. And when the mission is complete, Lord takes away with him all his associates when he disappears from the earth. The powers bestowed upon Arjuna were required for executing Lord's mission, and once completed, the powers were withdrawn from Arjuna, as it was no longer required and not needed for him going back to Godhead. If this endowment and withdrawal of powers by the will of Lord applies even for a great devotee like Arjuna, what to speak of a common man? So no one should feel puffed up by powers and benefactions received from the Lord, as it can be withdrawn at any time. So the best use of such power and opulence is to engage it in his devotional service. Arjuna was able to remember all the powers and benedictions bestowed by the Lord on the Pandavas. By Lord's merciful strength, Arjuna was able to win the hand of Draupadi in marriage by defeating all other princesses. At one time, he was able to defeat Indra and demigods, and another time in a fight with Lord Shiva, he was able to astonish him, and being pleased, Lord Shiva awarded Arjuna his own weapon. Arjuna recalled how Lord helped Bhima defeat Jarasandha, how Lord gave protection to Draupadi when she surrendered to his lotus feet, and recalled the time when Durvasa Muni appeared at Yudhishthira's home with his 10,000 disciples, and the Lord, by accepting just remnants of the food, made sure that Muni and disciples slept with the feeling that they were sumptuously fed. It was by Lord's mercy, as Arjuna's charioteer, that Arjuna was able to overcome the military strength of the Kauravas that was insurmountable as the great ocean. Yet, due to Lord Krishna's grace, Arjuna, sitting alone on the chariot, was able to vanquish and defeat each one after the other without any difficulty, and they couldn't even touch a hair on his head. The Lord is all-powerful, and by his grace, his pure devotee can be as powerful as the Lord desires, and there is no limit to it. And then, when the Lord withdraws his power, he is powerless by the will of the Lord. Some of the highlights in this section: the circle of mercy. With Lord's mercy, one gets the mercy of a devotee, which leads to more mercy from the Lord. And thus, Krishna consciousness is unique. The Lord does not tolerate insults on his devotees, so be careful not to offend devotees. Devotees always remember Lord Krishna in any difficulty. And when Lord Krishna is satisfied, everyone is satisfied. Thank you.
Very good. Shivangi is next. Shivangi.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, seeking permissions and blessings from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru Parampara, as well as Sri Sri Radha Krishna, to offer the summary of Canto 1, Chapter 15, which is titled The Pandavas Retired Timely from verses 32 to 51. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. This presentation talks about the retirement of the Pandavas as well as the advent of Kali after the Lord's departure. Upon hearing of Lord Krishna's returning to his abode, and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty, Maharaja Yudhishthira decided to go back home, back to Godhead. Herein, a beautiful analogy compares the Lord to the sun. Though eternally present everywhere and always, we can only perceive the sunlight at fixed times and places depending on our location. Similarly, though the Lord has his fixed times of appearance and disappearance, he is eternally present everywhere and always, though we may not always be able to see him. One who practically understands this becomes liberated and joins the spiritual realm. We also hear how the Yadus were taken back home by the Lord, and his actions here are described as picking out a thorn with a thorn. The Yadus came to earth along with the Lord to fulfill his mission. Once this mission was fulfilled, by the Lord's will, these Yadus relinquished their bodies by fighting with each other in intoxication. The Lord used the thorn of the Yadus to remove the thorn of the demoniac persons who burdened the earth. It is also explained here that the Lord assumes various incarnations as he desires, just as a magician assumes various forms to implement his tricks. As the supreme magician, the Lord exhibits his power, assuming any of his incarnations eternally, somewhere or other in the innumerable material universes. Seeing how the negative influences of the age of Kali are worsened after his departure, King Yudhishthira prepared to retire. In preparation for this, he installed Maharaja Parikshit on the throne in Hastinapura, and he ensured that Vajra, Lord Krishna's great-grandson, was installed in Mathura. Maharaja Yudhishthira's timely retirement shows what modern politicians must do. Once old enough, one must retire from their worldly duties and prepare themselves for the next life. He at once relinquished all his garments, belt, and ornaments of the royal order and became completely disinterested and unattached to everything. The so-called leaders of men in the modern age are attached by national consciousness, but they do not know that such consciousness is false, and it is also another designation of the materially conditioned soul. One has to relinquish all such designations before one can become eligible to go back to Godhead. Maharaja Yudhishthira began to concentrate and gradually became freed from all material bondage. All is manifested by the temporary embodiment of the material body, which is a production of the mind at the time of death. And if the mind is purified by practice of transcendental loving service to the Lord and is constantly engaged in his service, there is no more chance of the mind's producing another material body after death. Thus, after distributing his kingdom to Parikshit and Vajra, he did not think himself to be the emperor of the world or the head of the Kuru dynasty anymore. This teaches us that there is a sense of freedom from material relations as well as freedom from the material engagement, making one free to act as the Lord's servitor even though one is in the material world. Being freed from all external affairs, he had nothing to do with imperial life or family prestige. He had no dependence on his brothers who had all along been helping him. This stage of complete independence from everything is also called the purified stage of fearlessness. Thus, Maharaja Yudhishthira, while leaving home for the north, constantly remembered Lord Sri Krishna within himself, following the footsteps of his forefathers and great devotees. The other Pandavas also observed the bad omens of the age of Kali, and therefore they also decided to follow in the footsteps of their elder brother, and they meditated upon the Lord's feet without interruption. By pure consciousness due to devotional remembrance, they attain the spiritual sky, and this is attained only by those who meditate upon the Supreme Lord without deviation. The abode of the Lord, Sri Krishna, known as Golaka Vrindavana, cannot be attained by persons who are absorbed in the material conception of life. But the Pandavas, being completely washed of all material contamination, attained that abode in their very same bodies. Draupadi also saw that her husbands, without caring for her, were leaving home. She knew well about Lord Krishna, and thus she also became absorbed in his thoughts and attained the same results as her husbands. The departure of the Pandavas individually, aside from their wives, teaches us a lesson about taking charge of one's journey back home, back to Godhead. The words, "one must fly their own plane," may sound bitter and harsh, but everyone can be comforted by the fact that the Lord is always with everyone, watching over them, however their journey back home, back to Godhead unfolds. This subject matter of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life is fully auspicious and pure. Anyone who hears this narration with devotional faith will gain the devotional service of the Lord, which is the highest perfection of life. That ends the summary. Thank you all for listening. Hare Krishna.
Super excellent. Any questions, comments, realizations for the presenters, Nitya and Shivangi?
Prabhuji, Nitya, Shivangi and Chandan Prabhu also very nice summaries. It was a pleasure going through the chapters again.
Correct point. All presenters, you all have already perfected how to do presentations. Let me also quickly summarize chapter 15. Chapter 15 is titled The Pandavas Retire Timely. The summary of chapter 15 is, knowing the appearance of Kali on earth, Yudhishthir entrusted the kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj and he desired to go back home, back to Godhead. Arjuna, when he returned, he was much aggrieved. It was not possible for Arjuna to reply properly because Arjuna has lost his most dear friend, Lord Shri Krishna. Arjuna is remembering how Arjuna and Krishna were deeply connected as friends, how Krishna supported him all along. Lord's dealings with Arjuna are display of friendship of the highest perfect order. Arjuna recollects the favors showered upon Pandavas by the Lord. Arjuna clearly explains by different examples that by favors by Krishna, hence they Pandavas were glorious in the world. Whatever they achieved was because of grace of Krishna. The lesson from Arjuna remembering all these pastimes is the word remembering. When I am in distress, I forget what good things have come upon me. Materialistic person in crisis do not see what good things have come upon them. While Arjuna, a pure devotee, when he is in crisis, he simply remembers Krishna's favors and remembers Krishna's Bhagavad Gita instruction. And thus Arjuna got pacified. As well as Arjuna's devotion also increased. Now, while Arjuna was returning from Dwarka with the queens of Krishna, Arjuna had the same Gandiva bow, but Arjuna was defeated by cowherd boys and rogues. So how is this possible? And we also discussed in one of the previous chapters that the queens are internal potencies. So how could rogues or coward boys touch these queens? The answer is that Arjuna was given all this power by the Lord to execute the mission of the Lord. And then the Lord withdrew the powers because the power is not required to go back home, back to Godhead. The lesson from this pastime is that one should not be puffed up for his powers, because powers are borrowed from the Lord. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says to use the power given to you in service of the Lord, meaning follow Yukta Vairagya principle. The cowherd men who defeated Arjuna was actually Krishna. The wives had laughed at Astavakra Muni because he used to move in a peculiar curved manner. Hence, the wives were cursed by this Astavakra Muni that they will be kidnapped by rogues, even if they would get the Lord as their husband. And these wives again prayed and satisfied Astavakra Muni, and Astavakra Muni blessed them that they would regain their husband again, even after getting robbed by rogues. Hence, in order to keep the word of this Muni, the Lord himself kidnapped the wives from protection of Arjuna. Otherwise, the wives would have vanished as soon as they were touched by rogues, because the wives or the queens are internal potencies of the Lord. So after departure of Lord Krishna, he wanted all his entourage back home to Godhead, and they all were called back under different conditions. So these wives who were in the Dwarka pastime were now given entrance into Vrindavan pastimes. Lord's departure is explained with an analogy of the sun. That when sun sets in the west does not mean sun is no longer there. It is just that the sun is not visible to me. Similarly, Krishna is ever present. Krishna concludes pastime in one planet and continues his pastimes in another planet. And another analogy given here is that Lord's quitting the body is like the jugglery of magician. Now, Yudhishthir's retirement, what is the lesson from Yudhishthir's retirement? The lesson for all of us is that make room for younger generation. Do not be attached to position. You train the younger generation so that you can focus more of your time on Krishna conscious activities. Don't think that you are the only one to manage. Rather, have a succession plan. I should train the children to look after the household affairs so that I can retire. Srila Prabhupada said that last 15-20 years should be left for Krishna conscious activities. Therefore, make a plan before you are forcibly dragged by death. Modern politicians do not wish to retire unless they are dragged to death. So mind plays a crucial role in yoga practice. Therefore, train the mind. Use mind in Krishna conscious activities. One after the other, all Pandavas followed Yudhishthir and left. And all Pandavas left without asking Draupadi. And Draupadi also did not think, Hurry, no one is caring for her. So at the end of the life, when one has to go back home, back to Godhead, everyone has to take care of himself without help being rendered by another. Analogy, very nice analogy is explained that just as when flying an airplane, one cannot take care of other airplanes. Help is offered by spiritual master, father, mother, relatives, etc. on the ground before flying in space. But while crossing the sea of material existence, one has to take care of himself and utilize the instructions formerly received. Draupadi's 5 husbands did not ask her to come. Draupadi had to take care of herself without waiting for her great husbands. And because Draupadi was also already trained in Krishna consciousness, she at once took to concentration upon Lord's lotus feet. This way, Draupadi as well as Subhadra, also following the same process, they also achieved the same result in the same manner as their husbands, meaning without changing their bodies, they all reached the destination of Godhead. It's a quick summary of chapter 15. Questions, comments, realizations.
Prabhuji, may I ask something? Prabhuji, this after the Kurukshetra war, basically Kauravas were defeated and Pandavas were won just to have good kingdom going ahead. So that happily ever after kind of thing never happened. And this thing also, their retirement is also depicted as a very painful process. Even though they are pure devotees, they are crying, they are feeling the separation, they are knowing that they are going to go to Godhead. Still, why is the description given like this, Prabhuji? Just wanted to understand.
So, very nice that we have discussed this, that in movies on earth, they describe and they lived happily ever after. So we have discussed this earlier that this is fantasy, to think that I will live happily ever after on earth, because that does not exist on earth. We have to realize that we do not belong here on earth. We belong in the spiritual world. We are here for punishment and for reformment, so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. So Krishna uses his pure devotees to teach us lessons. So there was no separation for the Pandavas. They all reached to Godhead one after the other. To us, they are showing with this very nice analogy that while you are flying an airplane, you cannot get help from other airplane. You have to learn the process while you are on earth. And when you have to travel back to Godhead, you are on your own. You have to execute whatever you have learned so that you reach the destination. But this point, the Pragya's point, that living happily ever after, well, that's a fantasy shown in movies. Material world is a place of misery. We have discussed at great length in 8.16 Bhagavad Gita. So this all is learning for us. Pure devotees are teaching us what we should be doing and what we should not be doing. Pragya.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I wanted to understand the depiction of pain from separation of Krishna when they knew that they are going to go back to him. that thing also I am not able to understand. The other
Yeah.
part, yeah.
So this separation from Krishna, this Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us, this is actually height of devotion. And only elevated devotees like gopis and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also being in the mood of Srimati Radharani was able to demonstrate that. This is very difficult. If you ever get a tiny glimpse of this separation, it is very, very difficult to even think of that separation and to even experience that tiny glimpse of that separation. And what to speak of pure devotees like Pandavas and Gopis, that they don't know anything about separation. They cannot live at all separately from Krishna. So we have discussed this separation point in Nectar of Devotion also, that this devotion in separation is actually the height of devotion, which is only possible for significantly elevated pure devotees. It is not possible for ordinary. Pragya.
Ji Prabhuji, thank you. So it is the love that is being expressed.
Correct.
Okay, so the love of that separation, though they knew that they are pure devotees and they are going to go back to Goloka Vrindavan and next to Krishna, but still the period in between was very painful due to the immense love that they shared.
In the period in between, actually, their love increased. So what did Arjuna do? Is described in 1.15.27 that because of separation, what Arjuna did was simply remembered Krishna's Bhagavad Gita instruction and he got pacified. Right? For materialistic people, what they do during separation is either drink or whatnot or whatever else. But Arjuna is teaching us that remembering, I highlighted that point, remembering, right? That's the key. And Arjuna as a pure devotee is teaching us that Krishna, when he is not physically visible to us on earth, you can get the same results by remembering Krishna's instructions, Bhagavad Gita instructions, just as it was possible for Arjuna to be in personal presence of Krishna. And therefore, how many times have we revised Bhagavad Gita? You tell me. Everybody on the same page? Nitya.
Yes, Prabhu, just a quick question. In the past times with the queens being captured by the cowherdmen, then it states that they are transferred from the Dwaraka pastime to Vrindavana pastime. So per the timeline, so this pastime then occurs, that means it's Lord's pastimes occurring at another planet, right? Because they're going from Dwaraka to Vrindavana.
Yeah. So in Goloka Vrindavan is also split as Dwarka and Vrindavan. So they got to enter Goloka Vrindavan, the Vrindavan in Goloka Vrindavan. Right? So they were in the Dwarka pastime on earth. Of course, that is also spiritual world because Krishna is present. But the queens got promoted to enter into the Vrindavan pastime in Goloka Vrindavan. Nitya?
Thank you, Prabhu, for the clarity.
Everybody on the same page?
May I ask one small question, again related past
Yeah.
discussion. Prabhuji, that we talked about that yada yada hi dharma siglani bhavati bharata, then he comes for dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So he came, so much war was fought, and then at the end Kali comes in. So means he dharma sanstapana, did it happen for good, or that
So
we have?
we have discussed this also, that the first 10,000 years of Kali, the 10,000 years count is from the day of appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is roughly 500 years ago from today. The first 10,000 years of Kali are known as the Satyug within Kalyug, where all devotees should aim to go back home, back to Godhead. So roughly 9,500 years are left. Don't think I have a lot of time. This 9,500 years will pass in a blink. After this first 10,000 years of Kali, so it's not the first 10,000 years, it actually is first 14,500 years. So Kali started roughly 5,000 years ago, and 500 years ago is when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. So from the time of appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is when the 10,000 year count starts. This 10,000 years in Kali are the Satyug within Kali, where the bad things that we see in Kali Yuga are only a tiny glimpse, just to give us a hint that get out from here, because the real Kali Yuga, which is also described in Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 12, is very, very horrible. I don't even recommend to anybody to read that. Just accept what I am saying. Just focus on getting out of this material world. Aim to make this life as your last life and go back home, back to Godhead, because the real Kali Yuga is very, very horrible, where practicing spirituality will be next to impossible. Should be impossible. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Divya is next for chapter 16.
Sorry, Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have a question, Prabhu. Yeah, it's a silly question, Prabhu, but I have to ask. So in this material world, as a wife get a credit in everything, whatever husband do. So, and it is not vice versa. Means if wife is earning something and husband is getting that credit, it is not that way. So in the material world, in the spiritual world also, it has something to do with that, Prabhuji?
When you say credit, as in what credit are you referring to?
Credit means it's like if the husband is doing something good, yeah, if like husband is earning, so it's say that by law that half properties belong to wife, and anything good things happen, it's like both are included in that. In the spiritual also, if husband is doing very nice spirituality and the wife is also getting a credit of the spirituality.
So you don't have to worry about spiritual world to get the answer to that. It actually is explained right here in the material world. If you follow the example of Prithu Maharaj and his wife Archi. So this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter 23, verse number 26. 4, 23, 26. That the wife is supposed to chastefully follow the husband, and husband is supposed to be a devotee. So even though the wife has not studied any scriptures, simply by serving the husband, the wife also gets all the devotional credits of the husband executing. And it's not just Prithu Maharaj and Archi. The same is also explained in end of Canto 3 for Kardama Muni and Devahuti also, that Devahuti simply served the husband and Devahuti also attain spiritual world. Of course, the same example in Canto 3 is also described for Shiva and Parvati also. So you don't have to go that far to spiritual world. It's explained here. These also examples are for us to learn. Of course, the verse also goes on to say that these are inconceivable, but it's possible as long as you follow. Prithu Maharaj, of course, Prithu Maharaj is incarnation of Krishna himself. He came to teach us so many things, and this is also one of the things. The instructions in the 4 chapters in Canto 4 of Prithu Maharaj, from chapters 20 to 23, there are significant volume of practical instructions left for all of us. So, in the spiritual world, all souls are only engaged in Krishna's service. Everyone. Yes, there are husband-wives. There are relations like we have in the material world. But they are simultaneously engaged in Krishna's service because they do not know anything else. So what we have to focus on is what we have to do in the material world, for which examples are given in Bhagavatam, that husband should be staunch devotee, fully knowledgeable in scriptures, following the scriptures, living a life of a brahmachari. Even though he's a grahastha, he's practically living a celibate life. And the wife should chastely serve the husband, and this way the wife also gets the credit, the spiritual credit of the husband. So if you read the end of Canto 3, where Devahuti's example is given, Devahuti did absolutely nothing except serving the husband. She got the same result as the husband of attaining Vaikuntha planets. Archana and everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So, Archana, this was not a silly question, a very elevated question. So, questions are never silly. My answer could be, questions are never silly. Thank you for asking your super excellent inquiry that I have to
Your
go
answers
back.
are always elevated, Prabhuji.
It's not my answers, it's Bhagavatam. What did I answer? Did I do anything?
No, it's everything came from Bhagavatam. Yes, Prabhu. Sorry.
Yes, Bhagavatam is there, right? I only quoted. Yes, I did quote. I only quoted. Bhagavatam is giving the perfect answers to all of us. Very good. Nitya.
Prabhu, yes, Bhagavatam gave the perfect scenario, Prabhu, but then there are also times when we're not in the perfect scenario. So each on our own, right? As we talked about it too, we have to do our own. We cannot rely on being in the perfect scenario sometimes.
So the scriptures describe the ideal scenario so that whatever be our situation, we move towards the ideal, right? I am not perfect, but I need to have a goal that where do I have to reach to attain perfection? I mean, Krishna consciousness, there is no end goal. You keep perfecting, you will always find more perfection required. But to purify, we need a certain pathway. And that pathway is given in scriptures with these examples for us to follow. And you are correct that 1.15.51, the airplane flying analogy, is for us to also learn that I have to take care of my own spirituality. Now, Draupadi is also teaching us this point that Draupadi also served the husbands properly. Simultaneously, she is also teaching that when you have to go back, you take care for yourself. Nitya?
Thank you, Prabhu. One follow-up, then it also does apply that if you're on the path and you're trying to be a achieving, trying, endeavoring to be a pure devotee, you're also helping your family, right? It also applies that when the wife is doing or being a pure devotee, it also encompasses that goes to the family, right?
You are correct. So you aim to make your surrounding circumstances as Krishna conscious as possible so that they anyway get the benefit. We have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 verse 28-29 that death comes to devotees as well as death comes to materialistic people. So what's the difference? The analogy of the river and the moth is given that the river, while it is flowing to the ocean, the river nourishes the whole area through where it is flowing. And the river also continues to maintain its original state while after merging also. The moth on the other hand, which is materialistic people, the moth is destroyed by rushing to fire and there is no good. So the life of a devotee, while they are living here on earth, they are helping everybody around them to become Krishna conscious. And when the devotees go back home, there's no difference. Whatever devotional service devotees were doing here, now they do it in spiritual world. Nitya?
Yes, Prabhu, so true. It's so true, and can see that happening around us sometimes. That how we can help people even if when they're not Krishna conscious or when they are not truly, we can still help them. Thank you so much.
Very good. Okay, you had something.
No, Prabhuji, you said that actually I was thinking about the question of everybody has to fly their own plane only. And in connection to what Archana asked in the subsequent discussions and what Nitya also said that if the woman of the family is spiritually on a spiritual journey, maybe it would help the rest of the family, including husband.
Yeah. Very good. Very good inquiries from everyone. Divya, chapter 16.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I'm seeking permission and blessings from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru Parampara, as well as Sri Sri Radha Krishna, to offer this summary of Canto 1, Chapter 16, titled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. Parikshit Maharaj perceives Kali and initiates the tour. Maharaja Parikshit was a first-class devotee, Mahabhagavata. He ruled over the earth under the guidance of his spiritual master Kripacharya and council of expert advisors made up of learned brahmanas and great sages who themselves were Samadarshini. His rule, which strictly abided by the laws, rules of religious principles, created a true welfare state. No one was unhappy, man or animal. During his rule, Maharaja Parikshit heard that the symptoms of Kali had begun appearing in certain areas. He was ready to take immediate action and exhibit his fighting spirit as a Kshatriya to protect his innocent citizens who could fall prey to these negative influences. The symptoms of Kali are illicit connection with women, indulgence in meat eating, intoxication, and taking pleasure in gambling. Thus, Maharaj Parikshit set out on a tour of the world to conquer these miscreants. During this journey, he was received in many conquered nations with incredible welcome speeches full of facts glorifying the Lord and also his forefathers. There was no false flattery or self-glorification like that of the speeches in modern world leaders. Maharaj Parikshit was greatly pleased as a devotee to hear the glorification of the Lord in their stories about the Lord and his intimate interactions with his devotees. On his journey, he encountered Kali, who was disguised as a Shudra, dressed as a king, and hurting the legs of a cow and bull. Parikshit Maharaj arrested and punished him as soon as he saw this. Human civilization is meant to advance Brahminical culture, and for this, cow protection is essential as it produces the milk needed by humans to develop the quality of goodness. Therefore, no righteous king will tolerate any form of insult to the most important animal, the cow, or the most important man, the Brahmana. The root cause of all mismanagement and quarrel in Kali Yuga stems from unqualified Shudras sitting at the top positions of government and directing society towards slaughtering cows and destroying Brahmanical culture. Shaunaka Rishi and the other rishis wanted to know why Maharaj Parikshit only punished this offender instead of killing him. Normally, this would not be a topic of much interest to the rishis, but they wanted to know more purely because it was connected with Lord Krishna. Any subject or topic, no matter how mundane, once it is connected with the Lord, it automatically becomes purified and is worth hearing. Similarly, no matter how important a subject or topic is, if it is not connected to the Lord, it has no value. Only the less intelligent will waste their valuable human life in useless activities for sense enjoyment during the day and sleep away their nights. Dharma questions Earth about her misery in Kali Yuga. The bull that Maharaj Parikshit encountered was in fact the personality of religious principles, Dharma. And the cow that he met was the personality of the earth. The cow appeared to be grieving the loss of her child. Generally speaking, when the bull and the cow are happy, the people of the world will be happy too. Reason being, the bull helps in agriculture and farming, and the cow produces milk, leaving the population with plenty of grain and dairy to consume, and this helps the spread of Brahmanical culture. Such a society that is properly maintained is peaceful and prosperous. However, when the bull saw the unhappy cow, he inquired if she was suffering from an internal disease or a separation from a loved one. The state of the cow is representative of all the anxiety and suffering experienced by people in the age of Kali. There are many people today separated and living away from their families and loved ones for the sake of earning money, and many more that are suffering from internal diseases and sickness. This suffering of the mind and body is very evident just from looking at the faces of people living in today's world. The bull has lost his three legs and is standing on the last one. This is symbolic of how dharma and religious principles will be lost to three-fourths of the population, and life will become hellish for animals and the remaining population of people who are still trying to follow a dharmic life. As Kali Yuga progresses, the duration of life, mercy, power of recollection, and moral religious principles will gradually diminish. Meat eaters or mlechas will flourish due to the expansions of slaughterhouses. Their actions will lead to new types of sufferings for humanity. In the same manner, demigod sacrifices for planetary maintenance will also stop. Women and children will be neglected and left unprotected. Brahmanas will fall down the most when it comes to moral and religious principles and begin working for corrupted administrators who are inherently against the Vedic principles. All this is greatly harmful to the welfare of society. The bull also wonders if Mother Earth, the cow, is missing Lord Hari, who just descended on earth to unload her heavy burdens. The cow responds to all his questions and praises him also for once standing on all four legs and spreading happiness everywhere through the Lord's mercy. This is because in Satya Yuga, religious principles were being fully followed by everyone, and due to the deterioration of time, they diminished to zero in Kali Yuga. Happiness in the world depends proportionately on the maintenance of religious principles. The cow Mother Earth also describes some of the Lord's transcendental qualities which are unending. Some qualities she talks about is his intolerance of another's happiness, equality, how knowledgeable the Lord is, how he is the fullness of all beauty, truthfulness, etc. To glorify him, and she states how she is sorry to see the Lord leave after concluding his pastimes on earth. Mother Earth's separation from the Lord was more painful, even more painful than his queen's when he used to be absent from home. as Mother Earth was constantly in contact with the Lord's lotus feet. The world was fully perfect and full of opulence and abundance, richer than any other planet, while the Lord's lotus feet were upon it. His absence has allowed Kali to spread its influence everywhere. She was lamenting the regrettable condition which will hurt all beings devoted to the Lord and the followers of Varnashram Dharma. The Varnashram Dharma system will be particularly under attack, and it won't be able to perform its job of helping transform those with animal consciousness to human consciousness and gradually to godly consciousness. One must never lament, though, the departure of the Lord because he is omnipresent. We only need to awaken our connection to him through offenseless service by chanting and hearing about him. Only by the propagation of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord can we be immune from all the effects of the age of Kali. As the bull and cow were in conversation on the shores of river Saraswati, Maharaja Parikshit arrived there. This concludes my summary of chapter 16. Thank you all for listening. Hare Krishna.
Super excellent. Any questions, comments, realizations for Divya?
Prabhuji, beautiful presentation. Really, really enjoyed listening to her.
All right, Pragya is correct. Divya has also done a very good presentation like the other presenters. I will anyway quickly summarize chapter 16. Chapter 16 is titled How Parikshit Maharaj Received the Age of Kali. Chapter 16 describes the conversation between Dharma and Earth. Dharma is in the form of a bull and Earth is in the form of a cow. Chapter 16 also describes the symptoms of the age of Kali. Parikshit Maharaj was an ideal king. The state under Yudhishthir Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj was welfare state in real terms because no one was unhappy. Modern leaders have failed to protect the citizens. Presently, leaders have started slaughterhouses and they are thinking at the cost of flesh of mother cow, they can bring economic development, but not realizing that mistreatment to cow is the cause of disease and miseries. The characteristics of king's advisors are described that advisor to advise from scriptures which are without any flaw on how to execute state administration. Instead of enacting new legislation daily and then conveniently altering it again and again. Advisors have to be either great sages or brahmanas of the first order to help all become a devotee of the Lord. Advisors are not to accept any salary for providing the advice. Advisors have to be self-realized, samadarshina, and equal to both men and animals. They would not give advice to protect men and then kill animals. The symptoms of Kali are also described, that the age of Kali means the age of mismanagement and quarrel. Just look around. This is very easily visible. Shudras will be elected as administrators and will open organized slaughterhouses for killing the poor innocent cows. Root cause of mismanagement and quarrel is that worthless men are at the helm of state management. Scientists try to extend their life, but Yamraj does not allow even a minute more. The Kali symptoms such as short duration, being unfortunate are described. Further symptoms that family do not live together because Kali means the age of quarrel. Today, 4 things diminish: duration of life, mercy, power of recollection, and religious principles. Religion is down to 25% or even less than that and is diminishing day by day. 3/4 population is irreligious and this irreligions people, the count is even increasing more and more. Situation is now hell. In Kali, people will create so many so-called religious societies where Supreme Personality of Godhead is defied. People will not perform any sacrifice. Demigods are not satisfied. Hence, there is no rain and causing havoc in the society. The solution to overcome Kali, we have to purify ourselves. First step, real first step, which all of you are doing, is to educate our own selves. Devotional service, hearing the pastimes of the Lord, is the solution to get freedom from birth, death cycle. One can come out of Kali symptoms by Brahmanical culture. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada focused more on education. Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. Study Srimad Bhagavatam and spread Srimad Bhagavatam. This way, Krishna will incarnate in everyone's house and the society will prosper. Dharma wanted to know what is the cause of suffering of earth. Cow expressed her sorrow that Krishna has left. That as long as Supreme Personality of Godhead was present, I was decorated with auspicious marks of his lotus feet. But after he has left, I am devoid of all good fortune. Devotees of the Lord, they cannot tolerate the pangs of separation from him. There were chances of separation between the Lord and the queens when the Lord was absent from home. But there was no chance of separation of Lord from earth because he would traverse the earth with his lotus feet and thus earth would be immersed in the dust of his lotus feet. Therefore, the feelings of separation for earth were more acute when the Lord left the surface of earth to return to his spiritual abode. That's a quick summary of chapter 16. Questions, comments, realizations? Abhishek Prabhu is next for chapter 17.
Hare Krishna everyone, seeking permission from all assembled devotees, here Prabhupada, Guru Parampara and Shri Shri Hare Krishna to be able to present on Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this chapter 17, Parikshit Maharaj arrives at the place where the personified religion bull and Mother Earth in the form of cow are having their conversation. So Parikshit Maharaj is traveling in his kingdom and he reaches this place and he finds that Kali personified in the dress of a king is hitting the cow and the bull with a club. The bull was terrified and instead of 4 legs, he was standing on only 1 leg. The cow was calfless. She was distressed, weak, and full of tears. Bull is a symbol of religion, of which only one pillar, symbolized here by 1 leg, remains in the Kali Yuga. Cow is the symbol of Mother Earth and it has lost her ability to produce sufficiently in Kali Yuga as people have stopped performing prescribed sacrifices. Parikshit Maharaj, being a devotee and the king, the protector of religion, immediately questions the personality of Kali, who in the dress of a king is breaking the principles of religion. It is important to note that it's not the dress but the actions which count. And the personality of Kali, even though in the dress of the king, had very sinful actions. So he was liable to be punished. Being the giver of judgment, Parikshit Maharaj declares that Kali personality should be killed. But to get a confirmation, he wants to get a statement from the bull about the cause of their precarious situation. Parikshit asks the bull the cause of his suffering. He wants to know who is the perpetrator behind the suffering of the cow. And this is a very important lesson for everyone. Who is the cause of our suffering? There are various principles discussed here, which I'll try to discuss here. So, based on the conversation of the Bull and Parikshit Maharaj on the question of who is the perpetrator of the suffering, the Bull presents many arguments. First, the Bull replies that it is difficult to ascertain the cause of suffering, and many philosophers have given very different opinions, which are confusing. Some of the opinions which are presented are that the cause of suffering could be Daiva or some superhuman power like demigods. It could be material nature. It could be the mind. It could be the doer of the activity. Or it could be karma. From our understandings of scripture, we know that the Daiva or demigods, they don't work independently of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Gita 5.29 tells that Krishna is the Lord of all the planets and all the demigods, and therefore the demigods cannot be the sole cause of any activity. Material nature, it's like some people argue that material nature could be the cause, as the Sankhya philosophers say, but we know that nature is under the direction of the Supreme. Mind cannot be the cause because mind is just a form of matter. It is dull matter, and without connection to soul and super soul, mind cannot act. The doer of the activity cannot be the independent cause because Bhagavad Gita tells that there are 5 factors to action. 18.14 says the place of the action, body, the performer, the various senses, many different kinds of endeavors, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. Any independent doer cannot be held entirely responsible. Now, from the learning here is that from Vaishnava point of view, we know that nothing is possible without Lord's sanction. Speculative philosophers don't recognize the sanction of the Lord. Parikshit Maharaj wanted a statement against Kali from the bull and the cow, but they didn't give, as they knew that this activity of their suffering is actually sanctioned by the Lord. Devotees' attitude towards suffering is that even if they see mischief mongers, they don't accuse them of the suffering inflicted. One who identifies the perpetrator gets the same destination as the perpetrator. Devotees know that the mischief monger is just an instrument in cutting their own bad karma. They tolerate and discharge their duties sincerely without anxiety, knowing the Lord being the ultimate sanction. By this conversation, Parikshit realizes that the personality of Bull is actually Dharma itself. Now, Dharma has 4 legs, and out of those 4 legs, only 1 leg remains. The 4 pillars of Dharma are mercy, austerity, cleanliness, and truthfulness. And various activities in the Kali Yuga, they destroy these 4 pillars like intoxication, meat eating, pride, illicit association. These all destroy the legs of mercy, austerity, cleanliness. In this Kali Yuga, only the leg of truthfulness remains, which is also being attacked by the personality of Kali. With this, I want to end my presentation. Please correct any mistakes. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, super excellent. Pragya is next.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I am seeking permission from you all, Srila Prabhupada and all gurus in the disciplic succession and Bhagwan Krishna. We will now discuss the last section of Canto 1, Chapter 17, Parikshit Maharaj, expertly giving residence to Kali. Please forgive me for my shortcomings. We are discussing about the sufferings caused by Kali to the personality of religion and earth. Kali caused irreligion and deliberately commits all kinds of sinful acts which are forbidden in the scriptures. The religious king, Parikshit Maharaj, took up to protect religion and earth. He decided to kill Kali. When Kali understood that the king was going to kill him, he shed the fake royal dress, bowed his head, and surrendered. Even an ordinary Kshatriya does not kill a surrendered person, and Maharaj Parikshit was by nature compassionate. He accepted the surrender, and Kali was saved. But Parikshit Maharaj did not allow Kali to remain in his kingdom, as Kali's presence would bring irreligiosity and allow greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, and quarrel to flourish. These vices will thrive in a land where religious principles were followed for the satisfaction of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hearing that he cannot live in Parikshit Maharaj's kingdom, Kali began to tremble in fear. He knew whatever he says, Parikshit Maharaj would subdue him as a mischief monger. So Kali addressed Maharaj Parikshit as the chief amongst the protectors of religiosity and sought his protection. Maharaj Parikshit gave Kali permission to reside, but only in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter was performed. However, during the reign of Maharaj Parikshit, there were actually no such places. Therefore, Kali asked the king to give him something practical. Then Maharaj Parikshit gave him permission to live in a place where there is gold. So the personality of Kali became what Prabhupada says gold standardized. Because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and in addition to all these, enmity. Since the personality of Kali, by directions of Maharaj Parikshit, was allowed to live only in those 5 places, kings, public leaders, brahmanas, and sannyasis should never come in contact with these places. So after setting Kali, the king re-established the legs of the bull, namely austerity, cleanliness, and mercy. Maharaj Parikshit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapur by Maharaj Yudhishthir, ruled the world with great success. It was due to his expert administration and patronage that the rishis of Naimisharanya were able to perform sacrificial ceremonies for 1,000 years. So Prabhupada gives us some practical lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam. He rebukes modern administrators who issue licenses for gambling houses, wine and drug houses, brothels, hotel prostitution, etc., and have falsity even in their own dealings. We cannot have kingdom of God without God-conscious rulers. If we want to drive out corruption from the state, we must first organize society to accept the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, and to make the condition favorable follow the 4 regulative principles. In the previous chapter summary, Prabhuji also discussed about these things. Lastly, it is very reassuring to know that if Krishna can arrange protection even for an enemy like Kali who surrendered, how protective Krishna will be for a devotee. What do we need to do? Just surrender unto him. Prabhupada quoted Bhagavad Gita 18.66, which says, Sarv dharman paritajya mam ekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshasyami masucha, that the Lord will protect the surrendered soul from all sinful reactions. As devotees, we just need not fear. With this comforting thought, I stop. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Shri Krishna.
Also super excellent. In essence of time, I will quickly summarize chapter 17 also. Chapter 17 is titled Punishment and Reward for Kali. The symptoms of Kali and how to conquer Kali are also described here in this chapter 17. The cow representing earth and bull representing dharma were discussing, and at that time, one Shudra dressed as a king started hurting the leg of a cow. Hence, Parikshit Maharaj asked Kali, "Who are you? You look like king or Kshatriya, but your activities are like Shudra." Parikshit Maharaj asks the cause of his misfortune, means the misfortune of bull, because the duty of king is to give protection to law-abiding citizens and to punish the miscreants. Parikshit Maharaj wanted a statement against the wrongdoers, but both bull and cow declined to commit because they are devotees. The cow and bull clearly knew Kali is the cause of suffering. Still, as devotees, they knew without the sanction of the Lord, no one can inflict troubles onto me. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 5 as well as chapter 18 verses 13 to 19 describes the 5 causes required for any activity to happen in the world. Jiva desires, Ishvara sanctions, Prakriti executes, the endeavor and the senses. These are the 5 causes. So devotees do not accuse the wrongdoers. Wrongdoers are made to act for my own karmic reaction. Therefore, devotees tolerate. Dharma, the personality of religion, said that it is very difficult to ascertain a particular cause of my suffering because opinions of different philosophers are bewildering. The cause of sufferings can be, is it my mind? Is it the performer himself? Is it nature? Is it Daiva? Who is it? Let's understand each one of these points. So the mind, some philosophers say mind is the cause of happiness and distress because mind produces happiness and distress. The Vaishnava understanding is that mind is dull matter. When mind not connected to soul, mind is my enemy. And when mind is connected to the soul and super soul, mind is my friend because mind directs the senses according to scriptural guidance. Second is performer himself, the cause. Some philosophers say that action is not independent because action is performed by the performer. Hence, the performer himself is the cause of his own happiness and distress. Meaning the law of karma, our deeds are the cause of suffering. The Vaishnava understanding is that for any action, there are 5 factors involved, as I just described. Of these 5 factors, the super soul's sanction is the most important because without sanction of the super soul, no action can be performed. Is nature the cause? Followers of Sankhya philosophy say that nature is the cause of suffering. Due to combination of matter, we get happiness and distress. The Vaishnava understanding is that nature or Prakriti works under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Gita 9.10 says, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti. That Prakriti is not doing anything independent of Krishna. And then Daivam. Some philosophers say that Daivam, demigods, some superhuman higher power, is the cause of suffering. The Vaishnava understanding is that Supreme Lord is the source of demigods, as is described in Bhagavad Gita 10.2. The Supreme Lord has given powers to demigods for the administration of the universe. Demigods are not acting independently of Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is in control, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5.29, that he is the Lord of all lokas, including the planets of demigods also. Sarva loke maheshwaram. So how do you understand all these points? The Vaishnava understanding and the conclusion is that nothing is possible without the sanction of the Lord. Speculative philosophers do not recognize the sanction of the Lord. Devotees do not accuse the wrongdoers because devotees understand that wrongdoers are made to act for my own karmic reaction. And the wrongdoers cannot act without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the devotees learn to tolerate. Cow and bull clearly knew Kali is the cause of suffering. As devotees, they knew that without sanction of the Lord, no one can inflict troubles. Out of the 5 factors required for any action, the super soul's action is the most important because without this sanction of super soul, no action can be performed. Therefore, devotees, Vaishnav, believe that everything is the sanction of the Lord. So the devotee's attitude towards suffering is that even if devotees see mischief mongers, they do not accuse them for the sufferings inflicted, because one who identifies the perpetrator, he himself becomes the perpetrator. Bull is religion personified. Therefore, Bull did not want to identify the perpetrator. They take it for granted that mischief monger is made to act by some indirect cause. Therefore, they tolerate the sufferings, thinking that the sufferings to be God given in small doses. For otherwise, my suffering should have been much greater, because I know my own bad karma. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, truthfulness are the principles of religion. If I am under the influence of Kali, I give prominence to pride, illicit sex, intoxication, and lying propaganda, then automatically all these principles of religion will go away from me. The Kali conditions, these four principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, truthfulness have reduced to 25%. By pride, austerity is spoiled. By too much affection for members of opposite sex, cleanliness is spoiled. By too much addiction to intoxication, mercy is spoiled. And by too much lying propaganda, truthfulness is spoiled. How to conquer Kali is to surrender to the Lord. But surrender is not easy. Surrender is possible for persons of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Follow the four regulatory principles to conquer Kali. Men cannot check the evils of pride, illicit sex, intoxication, and lying propaganda by statutory acts and police vigilance. Rather, cure is to cure the diseased mind by proper medicine or Brahminical culture, or the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Preaching Srimad Bhagavatam will automatically render men austere, clean inside and outside, merciful to the suffering, and truthful in daily behavior. So how to conquer Kali for the mass people should be taught these four principles of religion from childhood, and do the austerity for spiritual realization. Bodily cleanliness can be helpful, but cleanliness of the mind is necessary. Mind can be cleansed by glorifying the Supreme Lord. Revival of Bhagavad Dharma can save human civilization from the evils of Kali Yuga. Therefore, study Srimad Bhagavatam and teach Srimad Bhagavatam to others. This is a quick summary of chapter 17. In essence of time, let's first revise chapters 18 and 19, and then, time permitting, we'll pause for questions. Mayang Prabhu, you are up for chapter 18.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, seeking permission from all devotees, Srila Prabhupada, all gurus in disciplic succession, and Sri Sri Radha Krishna to present on Canto 1, Chapter 18, verse 1 to 23. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. From verse 1 to 9, Sutta Goswami summarizes Parikshit Maharaj's birth and activities. Sri Sutta Goswami begins by glorifying the wondrous protection of the Lord. By the mercy of Sri Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit survived the deadly weapon of Aswatthama while still in his mother's womb. This miraculous beginning set the tone for a life lived under divine shelter, a fact that captivated the sages of Naimisaranya and stirred Sutta Goswami to narrate both the king's birth and his departure. Parikshit Maharaj's rule amazed the sages because he neutralized the influence of the personality of Kali. He governed so well that Kali could not harm the kingdom. Sutta Goswami emphasizes that recounting Parikshit Maharaj's birth and death increases the listener's eagerness to hear more about Krishna Katha, since Parikshit Maharaj's life continually pointed to the Lord's protection and purpose. The king's inner stance was total surrender. Consciously devoted to the personality of Godhead, he remained steady even when cursed to die by a snake bird bite, a curse born from the fury of a Brahmana boy under Kali's sway. As a true Narayana Parayana, he feared neither place nor person, not even death, considering heaven and hell equal when measured against the Supreme Lord. He accepted both his prenatal rescue and his prophesied end as the Lord's will, seeing everything sent by Narayana as the devotee's blessing. This fearless acceptance is the sign of a pure devotee. Having renounced all associates, Parikshit Maharaj surrendered himself as a disciple to Sukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasa. Through this submission, he realized the actual position of the personality of Godhead and peacefully gave up his body on the bank of the Ganges. The key term here is Ajita, that is Krishna, the unconquerable. He cannot be grasped by scholarship alone. Though many speculate even about his eternal abode, Golaka Vrindavan, true understanding comes only by the grace of a bona fide spiritual master like Sukadev Goswami. Guided by such mercy, Parikshit Maharaj learned the transcendental method to approach the Lord's eternal Dhamma and thus became confident of his ultimate destination. As the Bhagavad Gita teaches, Param Drastva Nivarate, realizing the superior energy of the Lord enables one to relinquish material attachment. By understanding the Lord's eternal names, qualities, pastimes, and paraphernalia, manifestations of his superior energy, one can truly turn away from the material energy. This clarity does not arise from the theoretical speculation, but from the grace flowing through discipline. In Parikshit Maharaj's case, the mercy of Krishna led him to the mercy of Sukadev Goswami and thereby to knowledge of the unconquerable Lord. Sutta Goswami also highlights Parikshit Maharaj's political strength. As long as the mighty son of Abhimanyu remained emperor, Kali could not flourish. Although Kali had entered the world as soon as the Lord Krishna departed, Parikshit Maharaj's governance blocked his spread. That is a good government. Disturbing elements will always seek influence, but a capable ruler checks them with protecting citizens from their sway. Sutta Goswami explains that the Lord and his holy name, qualities, and activities are identical. Kali could not enter the earth's jurisdiction in the Lord's presence. Similarly, where there is constant glorification and resounding of the Lord's name and pastimes, as authorized in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Kali finds no foothold. Parikshit Maharaj was a realist, like a bee taking only essence. He knew that in Kali Yuga, auspicious endeavors yield quick benefit, while sin requires actual performance to take effect. Therefore, he was not envious of Kali. By allotting Kali certain places, yet giving no opportunity for citizens to fall, he simultaneously protected society and acknowledged the aid's special facility. Even contemplation of piety brings benefit, assurance that and chanting the holy name grants salvation despite widespread faults. Hence, he organized the propagation of the Lord's names, saving his people from Kali's clutches, in harmony with the Bhagavatam's assurance that hearing Krishna Katha subdues the aid's disadvantages and arrests the Lord in one's heart. Parikshit Maharaj also judged that while the less intelligent might feel overswayed by Kali's seeming power, the self-controlled need not fear. As a tiger-like king, he guarded the careless and the foolish, those who being non-devotees are vulnerable to Kali. Part 2 from verses 10 to 23, Sutta Goswami and sages discuss nectar of Krishna Katha. Those who desire complete perfection must submissively and systematically hear topics connected to the transcendental activities and qualities of the personality of Godhead. Such orderly hearing reveals Krishna in truth and fact, and knowing him thus leads to eternal life, countering birth, death, old age, and disease, and culminating in transcendental bliss. The sages bless Sutta Goswami for speaking this nectar, to mortals and recall the Bhagavad Gita 4.9. The Lord's acts are divyam, never material, and one who understands this is not reborn but enters his service. In contrast, their own smoke-filled sacrifice feels uncertain in Kali Yuga, but the result of hearing from a realized person is tangible and sure, as confirmed by the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. In this age, people anxiously labor in fruitive work and speculation with doubtful results, whereas devotional service yields certain results without wasted energy. In short, nothing spiritually or materially succeeds without devotional service to the Lord. A moment's association with a devotee surpasses the attainment of heaven or even liberation. Pure devotees live in transcendence, engage in eternal devotional service, while association with gross materialists is condemned. Therefore, one should always seek association with the Lord's name, form, qualities, and devotees. Such association is desirable, worshipable, and praiseworthy, and is to be accepted as the highest goal. The sages request the very topics by which Sukadev Goswami led Parikshit Maharaj to the Lord's lotus feet. Srimad Bhagavatam, the supreme science of Bhakti Yoga. Sutta Goswami humbly notes his mixed birth, yet explains that by serving and following great souls, he was elevated at once. Even conversing with such devotees cleanses disqualifications. This is the same Vedic principle Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revived, regardless of birth or social position. One conversant with the science of Krishna can serve as Acharya. He elevated the low-born by his association, as with Srila Haridas Thakur Namkarya. Thus, chanting the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee, offenseless chanting immediately frees one from the disadvantages of lower birth, because the holy name is non-different from the Lord and fully powerful to protect from all sins. I conclude my presentation here. Hare Krishna.
Nitya.
Seeking permission from all assembled devotees, Srila Prabhupada Guru Parampara and Sri Sri Radha Krishna to present Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, verses 24 to 50, Maharaj Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy. Once upon a time, Maharaj Parikshit, while engaged in hunting in the forest, became extremely fatigued, hungry, and thirsty. While searching for water, he entered the hermitage of a well-known Samika Rishi and saw the sage sitting silently with closed eyes. Maharaj Parikshit was a pure devotee of the Lord, and there was no reason for him to become furtive by bodily demands. But it was the desire of the Lord to create a situation favorable for his renunciation of worldly activity. Maharaj Parikshit was to become the medium for the revelation of Srimad Bhagavatam by Lord Krishna, as Arjuna was the medium for Bhagavad Gita to be spoken. This is the prelude to the circumstances under which Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken for the benefit of all concerned. The prelude therefore begins with the words, once upon a time. The sage was in deep meditation, in a trance, and was not aware of the king's presence. The king, not received by any formal welcome, by being offered a seat, water, and any sweet recognition, considered himself neglected, and so thinking he became angry. The king, being insulted, picked up a lifeless snake with his bow and placed it on the shoulder of the sage. Upon returning, King Parikshit began to contemplate if the sage had just been feigning a trance to avoid receiving a lower Kshatriya. The sage had a son who was known as Shringi, and hearing about and angered by what had happened, he placed a curse that on the seventh day a snake bird will bite the king, as he had insulted his father. The age of Kali was seeking an opportunity to spoil the cultural heritage, and it began with the Brahmana boy, the first sign of degradation of the Brahmana community in Kali Yuga. The first victim of this Brahmanical injustice was Maharaj Parikshit, and thus the protection given by the king against the onslaught of Kali was slackened. When Shringi returned to the hermitage and saw a snake on his father's shoulder, he cried out loudly. The rishi, hearing the crying, gradually opened his eyes and saw the dead snake around his neck. He asked his son why he was crying, and when he heard about the curse, Rishi was upset by his son's action. Maharaj Parikshit is a pious king, and a pure devotee should not be cursed. When a pious king's reign is abolished, the world is filled with thieves. Rishi knew that his son was wrong, and he prayed to Godhead to forgive his immature action. A pious king needs to be protected. Also, when an offense is committed against a devotee, Lord will not forget it. It could only be excused as it was performed by a child. The demons who were not killed by the king are given a chance to be born in a Brahmin family so they can progress towards salvation. But the fact of Brahmins misuse this opportunity. The foolish sons of the Brahmanas are advised to guard against the demoniac qualities that they had in their previous birth. Maharaj Parikshit, being a pure devotee, could have countered the curse, but devotees are never inclined to avenge themselves, even when they are defamed, cursed, neglected, or cheated. The sage regretted the sin committed by his own son and did not take the insult by the king very seriously. Maharaj Parikshit did not mind the curse offered by the Brahmana boy. On the contrary, he took full advantage of the situation and by the great will of the Lord achieved the highest perfection of life in the grace of Sukdev Goswami. Actually, it was the will of the Lord, and Maharaj Parikshit, Rishi, Samika, and his son Shringi were all instrumental in fulfilling the desire of the Lord. Everything was done in relation to the Supreme Lord. Thank you, and please forgive me for my shortcomings.
All right. In essence of time, I will also first quickly summarize chapter 18. Chapter 18 is titled Parikshit Maharaj Cursed by Brahmana Boy. Chapter 18 describes the curse of Brahmana boy to Parikshit Maharaj, and Parikshit Maharaj took the curse as mercy of the Lord and became truly renounced. Even though Kali is full of faults, there are still auspiciousness. In this age of Kali, auspicious acts produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. In other ages, simply by thinking of performing a sinful act, one used to become the victim of the act. And this also is the reason why Parikshit Maharaj did not kill Kali. Kali cannot exert its power on Dhira and Sadhu. Parikshit Maharaj became angry on Samik Rishi. Krishna created this circumstance so that Parikshit Maharaj becomes thirsty, so that the result will be that Parikshit Maharaj goes back home to Godhead, as well as Srimad Bhagavatam appears in the world. Parikshit Maharaj punished Kali and allowed Kali to stay in the kingdom. Now, a question may be asked, why Parikshit Maharaj did not kill Kali if he knew that Kali is going to cause havoc? Answer is because Kali surrendered, the duty of the king is to protect, plus the Vaishnava principle that he will not act when somebody has surrendered. And Parikshit Maharaj further did not want to interfere with the Lord's plan and with the current of time. Kali could hardly find the place allotted to him. The personality of Kalyu, therefore, was seeking the opportunity to establish authority. And by the grace of the Lord, he found a hole in the puffed up, inexperienced son of Brahmana. Srila Prabhupada says the first sign of the influence of Kali is the degradation of the Brahmana community. And this cursing of Parikshit Maharaj is the first instance of this degradation. Now, question is that if Supreme Personality of Godhead made Parikshit Maharaj thirsty so that this incident with Samik Rishi happens, then why blame the boy? The answer is that the offensive act was performed by a child so that it could be excused very easily. Therefore, Samik Rishi's prayer to pardon the boy was accepted by the Lord. Samik Rishi asked the Supreme Lord to forgive this immature boy. Parikshit Maharaj could have countered the curse. So why did Parikshit Maharaj not counter the curse? The attitude of pure devotee is shown by Parikshit Maharaj by not countering the curse, because this was a personal defamation. Plus, Parikshit Maharaj did not want to interfere with the cycle of the Lord. Parikshit Maharaj took the curse as mercy of the Lord and became truly renounced. Actually, it was desire of the Lord, and Parikshit Maharaj and Samik Rishi and his son Shringi were all just instrumental in fulfilling the desire of the Lord. So none of them were put into difficulty because everything was done in relation with the Supreme Person's will to get Srimad Bhagavatam for the benefit of all people. That's a quick summary of chapter 18. In essence of time, we'll go a little over. I request all to please tolerate. Matan Prabhu, chapter 19.
Hare Krishna. Seeking the blessing and permission of all of you, my Siksha Guru is Grace Vilas Das, my spiritual master is Grace Y.C. Das, Srila Prabhupada, the entire Guru Parambara, and Sri Sri Radha Krishna. I would like to humbly speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, text 1 to 40. This is divided into 3 subsections. First subsection is 1 to 7. Parikshit Maharaja sat down on the bank of the Ganges for his imminent death. While returning home, Parikshit Maharaja reflected deeply on the offense he had committed against a faultless Brahmana. He felt genuine remorse, recognizing that his action was uncivilized and sinful. He realized that neglecting the instructions of the Supreme Lord, such as respecting Brahmana, maintaining court consciousness, protecting cows, naturally bring difficulty. Accepting this truth, he prayed that the difficulty come at once. He might learn from it and never repeat such a mistake. He acknowledged, let my kingdom, strength and wealth be burned by the fire of the Brahmana's wrath, so I may never again be guided by such inauspicious attitude. As he contemplated his wrongdoing, Parikshit received the news of his imminent death, the curse of Sringi, the Brahmana boy, in the form of a snake bird that would kill him in 7 days. Remarkably, he accepted this news not with fear, but with a relief, considering it a blessing because it would help him detach from the material world. Parikshit Maharaj did not counter-curse the boy, nor did he criticize him. Instead, he accepted the situation as the arrangement of the Lord. Samika Muni, the boy's father, regretted his son's rash behavior and informed the king that the curse was unwarranted. The king's act of placing a dead snake on the sage's shoulder was not a grave enough to justify the death curse. Yet, because the curse could not be undone, Samika Muni dutifully informed the king so that he would prepare for the death properly. Samika Muni also recognized that the situation was ultimately a blessing, for it would accelerate the Parikshit Maharaja detachment from political and social responsibility and give him the perfect opportunity to return to courthood. Understanding this, Maharaja Parikshit lamented this accidental offense and reaffirmed his desire that his kingdom and opulence be burned away as they had diverted him from Brahmanical and devotional culture. The Bhagavatam explains that human life is meant to prepare oneself to go back to Godhead and escape the cycle of birth and death. Parikshit was extremely fortunate. He received a 7-day notice before death. Ordinary people rarely get such a warning. Although death is certain, they foolishly neglect spiritual preparation. With full determination, Parikshit sat firmly on the southern bank of the sacred Ganges. He renounced all the duties and possessions, focusing entirely on Krishna consciousness. The Ganges is described as supremely holy because its waters have washed the dust of the Lord's lotus feet and tulasi, sanctifying all who come into contact with it. Therefore, the noble descendant of Pandava sat by the Ganges, fasted until death, surrendered himself completely at the lotus feet of the Lord, gave up all the worldly associations, adopted the vows of the sage, fully prepared for the final journey back to Godhead. Second subtitle is verse 8 to 24. Parikshit Maharaja inquires the duty of everyone in all circumstances, especially for one who's about to die. When Maharaja Parikshit sat down on the bank of the Holy Ganges to await his imminent death, the news spread throughout the universe. Great sages who understood the significance of the moment began to arrive from all directions. They came on the pretext of pilgrimage, but actually because they foresaw the Srimad Bhagavatam would soon be spoken by Sukadeva Goswami, and they did not want to miss this divine event. Sages of immense spiritual status descended from various parts of the universe, such as Atri, Syavana, Saradwan, Aristameni, Burhu, Vasistha, Parasara, Vishwamitra, Ankira, Parashurama, Udaya, Indrapradama, and so on. Along with them came many saintly demigods, kings, and Rayasis belonging to Arunadaya dynasty. When they all assembled, Maharaja Pariksit received each sage with a great humility, bowing his head to the ground. This etiquette, bowing to superiors, wins the heart of a saintly person, and the king did this to honor them and seek forgiveness for any future or past offense. After the sages completely took their seats, Pariksit stood before them with folded hands and respectfully explained his decision to fast until death. Although Pariksit had already made his vow, he still sought approval from the high authority, showing his ideal behavior of a righteous king. Important decisions, even if should be reconfirmed by saintly person that ensure spiritual perfection. Because Pariksit had fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and was surrounded by God's pure devotee on the bank of the Ganges, he became completely free from all fear of death. Pure devotion removes all anxiety. Pariksit then offered a heartfelt prayer. O Brahmana, if I take birth again, may I have unshakable devotion to Lord Krishna, constant association with his devotee, and friendly dealings with all living beings. In perfect self-control, Pariksit sat on a seat of his floor facing north, the seat facing east on the southern bank of Ganges. He already handed his kingdom in the imperial throne to his son Janameya and fully embraced the life of a surrendered sage. The assembled sages praised his determination. It is not surprising that saintly king gives up his royal life for a permanent association with the Lord. Parikshit's final question. So before the appearance of Sukadeva Swami, Parikshit posed the central question of the Bhagavatam. What is the duty of every person at all time, and what is the duty of one who is about to die? This question opens the doorway to the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Next subsection is the appearance of Sukadeva Swami, verse 25 to 40. As Parikshit sat by the Ganges preparing for his final day, a remarkable event took place. Sukadeva Goswami, the powerful, self-satisfied, renowned son of Vyasadeva, suddenly appeared before the vast assembly of sages. Sukadeva Goswami was only 16 years old, yet he displayed uncommon divine features. His limbs were perfectly formed, his eyes were large and beautiful, his face was radiant, his neck resembled the shining conch shell, his complexion was black like Lord Krishna. Although youthful and extremely attractive, he remained completely detached, uninterested in society, status, or worldly comfort. His beauty naturally attracted women, but he was transcendental beyond the material attraction. Ruvanar, the Bhagavatam says, comes from spiritual achievement, not from old age. Sukadeva Swami's appearance and character showed he was no ordinary man, but a great liberated soul. The assembled sages were experts in reading divine characteristics, so they immediately understood his exalted nature when Sukadeva arrived. Everyone stood up in respect. Only Vyasadeva, Narada, and few great souls remained seated. Maharaja Pariksit bowed with his whole body. Sukadeva offered respectful greeting his father, Vyasa, and Narada. Sukadeva was then given the presidential seat, the seat of the speaker of the Bhagavatam. The ordinary people who had followed him out of curiosity became quiet, sensing the gravity of the moment. The assembly turned peaceful and majestic. Sukadeva sat like the full moon, surrounded by sages and demigods like stars. Sukadeva Swami sat peacefully, calm, and ready to answer any question. Maharaja Pariksit, though a powerful king, considered himself unworthy because of his humble devotion. Bowing respectfully, he approached Sukadeva with folded hands and sweet words. Although renowned sage normally avoid kings and worldly people, Sukadeva accepted Pariksit because he was a pure devotee, not a materialistic ruler. A devotee like Sukadeva avoid materialistic enjoyers and lusty association, but a sincere devotee like Pariksit is an exception. In front of the entire assembly, Maharaja Pariksit asked the most important question of life. What should a person hear, chant, remember, and worship? What should one avoid? And what is the duty of someone who is about to die? The question is the doorway to the entire Bhagavatam. Sudha Goswami concludes this chapter by explaining that after the king spoke this sacred question, Sudha Goswami, the great son of Vyasadeva, prepared to answer them. This will conclude my summary of chapter 19, last chapter of the first canto, first chapter, canto 1. Thank you. Please forgive me for any shortcomings.
Right, I will also quickly summarize. Please tolerate for a few more minutes. Chapter 19 is titled The Appearance of Sukadeva Goswami. Parikshit Maharaj says, "Let this calamity fall on me alone, so that sins can be washed, because I have offended the Lord." Parikshit Maharaj is king. As protector, Parikshit Maharaj has not followed the principles of religion. And he says, if I go through the calamities, then I will not commit this sin again. This is very important. This is the mood of a devotee, that I should go through the suffering instead of countering. This way, my family will not have to suffer. This is also the dharma, that if father commits mistake, then family should not suffer. Parikshit Maharaj was thinking that anger of Brahmana is actually a blessing, because Parikshit Maharaj says that he was getting attached more and more to worldly things. Hence, this is an opportunity and blessing for me to renounce. Parikshit Maharaj sent down on bank of Ganges for his imminent death and bowed down to the sages. Bowing down is the first sign of how great offenders can be saved. Parikshit Maharaj is teaching us how to prepare for death, meaning prepare for death in presence of devotee. Proud to be in association of devotees. Calamities are plan of the Lord to get pure devotees back home to Godhead. Parikshit Maharaj did not complain. The curse is making me more detached. This is the thought process of a pure devotee. Accept the plan of the Lord with humility. Parikshit Maharaj is sure to go back to Godhead. Still, Parikshit Maharaj is taking a humble position to teach to rest of us. Upon Parikshit Maharaj's inquiry, sages were giving different opinions. Some sages saying follow some yoga, some saying do charity, and there were different prescriptions, and there was no agreement as to what to follow. Sages were not unanimous in their decision. There were so many prescriptions. The highest prescription, the highest and the easier process is to attain to devotional service of the Lord. At this time, Srila Sukadeva Goswami arrives. Lord sends his representatives, the spiritual master, to the devotee as soon as the devotee is ready to go back home. This depends on the sincerity of the devotee. The Lord is seated within the heart of all. As soon as the Lord finds that a particular soul is very eager to go back to Godhead, the Lord sends his bona fide representatives. One cannot attain devotional service until the mercy of spiritual master is received. Parikshit Maharaj asks the same two very important questions to Sukadeva Goswami. What should be the object of hearing? What I should chant, what I should worship, and what I should not do. What I should not do is also very important because Vidhi and Nisheda are to be inquired from spiritual master. The answers to these two very important questions are described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2 to 12. In brief, the answer is, should always chant and remember Krishna and should not be too much involved in material things. Thus, we have summarized Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. Do you all have a good understanding of Bhagavatam, Canto 1, everyone?
Yes, Prabhu. The revision was very useful. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Revision really helped us, Nitya said.
Okay, so from next week, we will start Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2. So the spiritual endeavor for all of you is to, before next class, read Canto 2, Chapter 1. Now, I'll give a quick feedback to all of you. I request all of you to listen to today's class recording that many of you went overtime. You all are doing good presentations, but you all went overtime. So you should listen to my presentation and your presentation side by side, that I am talking of the same points, but I am not going into granular detail. You can judge for yourself that you are going into unnecessary granular detail when we should be doing these revisions at a high level. Therefore, we are over 30 minutes over from what we should be finishing. So this is a very important learning, that don't just keep on talking and talking and talking. Yes, you are all talking about Krishna Katha, but you have to focus on what the subject matter we have assembled for. My last point for today. So everybody should listen to today's recording, get the recording from me, and on the Google form, there is a time allotted. So stick to the time allotted. If you are a little minute over, is okay. But some of you went more than twice the time allotted. Well, that cannot be accepted. Many of you are going into granular details. Well, that is not revision. Why do you need granular details? Why do you have to talk about the verses and the divisions? No, cut out all those granular details. Focus on the subject matter of the chapter. My last request and recommendation to all of you is that all of you are ready for initiation. Even if you have some lingering fear, I request and recommend that you all immediately start by taking up a spiritual mentor right away, so that the clock starts clicking, because it takes a long time to get a mentor, then long time to know the mentor, then long time to find a spiritual master, then to take shelter, and then comes initiation. So immediately start the clock ticking by taking a spiritual mentor. We discussed in chapter 19 that one cannot advance in devotional service until the mercy of spiritual master. And Pragya also summarized that to avoid the impacts of Kali Yuga, we need to surrender to the Lord. So I request and recommend all of you, you are all ready for initiation. So immediately start the process. Thank you, everyone. We will stop here in essence of time for the next class. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Hare